Chapter 10, Preserving Hoodlum Honor. Denise was an old childhood girlfriend who grew into a gregarious, big-breasted, slim-waisted woman with freckled, alabaster skin, bleached blonde hair, and bright hazel eyes. Boxer hadn't seen her for a decade when she called him after he ran into her sister in a nightclub. They had a date, and she was so much fun that they soon became a couple who frequented restaurants and clubs. They were at the Inca Room in La Mirada, a ghetto club for gangsters with a pool hall, bar, and a dance floor. Boxer noticed his ex-wife Pam across the room arguing with a 19-year-old girl who turned out to be the niece of a well-known heroin dealer from Artesia known as Flo. He walked across the room and asked his ex if everything was okay. Then the niece stuck her finger in his chest and yelled, "Who the fuck are you? Get the fuck out of here." Boxer shot her a look that would chill a glass of water. "Don't mess with me, I will hurt you." It was over for now. Several hours later, Denise and Boxer, along with his younger brother John, went to an after-hours party that happened to be at Flo's house in Norwalk near the intersection of the 405 and 605 freeways. It was the turf of a gang called Neighborhood Barrio Norwalk. Flo's roots were in Arta, but she moved periodically, trying to keep her heroin operation one step ahead of the police. The place was filled with gangsters and their painted women. Not too long after arriving, Boxer saw the same niece, and she yelled, "There, that puto is right there." She'd probably been telling everyone there about the earlier encounter at the Inca Room. Then Flo's daughter, Valerie, strutted up to Boxer and said, "Who the fuck you think you are? You don't run shit here." Her ashtray breath was overwhelming, and her alcohol spittle hit his face. It didn't make him happy. Then, as Boxer slowly placed the Corona he was drinking on top of a tall stereo speaker, Valerie struck him with her hand. He turned and popped her with his fist square in her eye. And then it seemed as if every warm body in the room descended on him. Boxer was soon trapped under a dog pile of swarming cholos and cholas when he felt a sharp ping-ping in his chest. Automatically, he reached for the 8-inch double-edged killing dagger he kept stashed in his rear pants pocket, and it was missing. Meanwhile, John was standing over his brother, furiously knocking people off of him. The room was filled with the noise of shrill screams and guttural grunts. An older homeboy known as Big Monk was shouting in disbelief. "That's a carnal, what are you doing?" It was a chaotic ghetto brawl. Boxer somehow got to his feet and saw the 2 stab wounds in his chest, blood drenching his white-on-gray patterned shirt. His eye caught Flo's son-in-law, Eddie, standing nearby, holding a knife and trying to hide it behind his leg. Next to him was Bosco, Flo's son, pocketing a dagger that was all too familiar to Enriquez. It was his. He threatened them both. "I'm going to kill you. You are dead. You are through." Girls from the family taunted him as he walked toward the door, throwing beer cans and screaming obscenities. The short, fat, cockeyed beast of a woman known as Flo stood there, blind drunk, with a trophy in her hand. "Fuck you. I don't know who the fuck you are." "I'm coming back," warned Boxer. "I don't care who your family is." It turned out that Flo was the sister-in-law of an M founder. She pleaded to Topo Peters and Cuate Grajeda, imprisoned mafiosi, who benefited from her heroin supply, claiming that Boxer disrespected us. It didn't matter. The mafia rules said that any outsider who raised a hand against the carnal could die for his mistake. Boxer knew he had to make a statement to preserve his hoodlum honor. He sent word of what happened to Flo's brother-in-law at Corcoran State Prison. His common-law wife, Flo's sister, delivered the response to Enriquez: "Do what you have to do." Eddie, Valerie's fiance, went into hiding. That left Flo's boy Bosco out there to hunt down and kill. However, every time Boxer located him at some nightclub or party, he managed to sneak out the door. About 3 weeks had gone by when Boxer heard that Bosco would be at the Inca Room. Boxer was outside in the parking lot with a Marlin 18-shot, 2-magazine automatic rifle. He chambered around and waited patiently in his car. This time, Bosco was going to die. He sent his girlfriend Denise to make sure Bosco was there. Denise was a dope fiend with ties to Flo's family, and unbeknownst to Boxer, she had been tipping Bosco off every time he got close to the kill. This time, she told her sister Tina to leave with Bosco so that Boxer wouldn't shoot. She didn't realize that wouldn't be enough. Denise followed her sister and Bosco out of the club and jumped into the front passenger seat of Boxer's car. His brother John was driving. Boxer sat in the back with his weapon. Bosco screeched out of the parking lot before them and launched into an exercise of evasive driving, sometimes traveling up the wrong side of the street into traffic. John stayed above 5 car lengths behind, anticipating the right moment. It was about 40 minutes into this stalking game, going 50 miles an hour on a surface street, when John pulled up alongside Bosco. It was then that Boxer leaned out the window with the automatic rifle and unloaded. Ricochets were zinging, and innocent people on the sidewalk nearby were screaming for their lives. Bosco whipped the steering wheel to his car and went into a skid as rifle shots scattered his windows. Denise was frantic. "You're killing my sister." "Shut up," Boxer said. He wanted Bosco dead. If Denise's sister was killed in the melee, that was just too damn bad. This was mafia business. The rifle magazine empty, Boxer told his brother to head back to the freeway and return to East Los Angeles. He found out later that Bosco had some cuts from flying glass and Tina was left without a scratch. Both had miraculously survived the attack, but Flo asked for a meeting. A teary-eyed Flo later agreed to pay 1,000 spoons of heroin worth about $10,000 on the street. She was also forced to pay a couple $100 a week in tribute. She resisted at first, but changed her mind when she was reminded that her son Bosco sooner or later would end up in jail for some petty crime, and the mafia would make sure he came home in a coffin. It was Boxer's first successful extortion, and it opened his eyes to the possibilities of extorting other neighborhoods too. Mike Higgins, also known as Cowboy, was another gang member from Eastside Clover. He was Boxer's age. They had been on the Camarada wrecking crew together at Dual Vocational Institute in Tracy, California in 1984. Cowboy was a terror back then. He wanted to stab someone every day. Boxer ran into him at a Lincoln Park festival in East Los Angeles. He assured Boxer that he and his homies had plenty of guns. They exchanged numbers and decided to do some jobs together, not construction. But it was while working on his construction job out in the Moreno Valley, 64 miles east of Los Angeles. That Enriquez learned about another drug connection in Corona. He called Cowboy. It was late at night when the two of them kicked in the front door, shouting, "Police, police." That entry always gave them an edge. A drug dealer expecting a bust always hesitated just long enough when he believed the cops were at his house. The connection was just getting out of bed as Boxer, carrying a taser gun, and Cowboy brandishing a .38 Smith & Wesson revolver, crashed through the bedroom door. Boxer hit him with the taser right on the neck, and it dropped the guy, who was dressed only in little red underwear that looked like panties. The guy started screaming when the shock wore off, and so did the woman with him. "Shut up," ordered Boxer as he and Cowboy duct taped the mouths, hands, and feet of their victims and made off with the stash of heroin and a reasonable collection of jewelry. It was only later that Boxer learned that the house belonged to another MM member, Carlos Carlitos Morales of Lomas, and the woman victim was his mother-in-law. He'd committed a crime that was a killing offense in the mob, but he got away with it because Carlito never made it an issue. By this time, Boxer Enriquez was using heroin again. He was always a hope-to-die kind of user, so he quit his construction job and his robbery schedule was coming off the hook. Denise was a registered nurse, but also had a nasty heroin habit. Boxer tried to stay clean when he paroled, but he soon discovered that his girlfriend was shooting up when she told him she was sick. That's a junkie code term for "I need a hit now." He took her to a methadone clinic in Baldwin Park and they put her on a rehab program. She lied to him about staying with it. It wasn't long before she came to him again. "I need to get well. You were going to room me," he laminated. Then he drove her to Jesse Aragon's apartment to get some dope. Jesse was a 35-year-old paunchy, sloppy, slow-witted mafia member from Artesia known as Sleepy. Boxer never thought of him as carnal material, but Sleepy was married to one of MF founder Weddle Buff's daughters, Jenny Bringueno. She was a rail-thin, ferociously unpleasant-looking ghetto chick who chugged a can of beer for breakfast and had a personality to match her face. Junkies and small-time dope dealers went to their place to shoot up and sleep on the floor. Enriquez knew he could score some heroin there. He did. Sleepy gave him a spoon for Denise. Boxer took a taste too and started using again. Then he went back to Sleepy several nights later. He was asked to attend a meeting with Jesse Moreno, Weddle Shy, and Rocky Luna. He walked in the door and the phone rang. It was mafioso Topo Peters calling from prison, where he spent the vast majority of his life. Even juvenile crime records describe Topo as a clever agitator, often stayed in the background while agitating others in aggressive acts. Topo started using heroin when he was 15, dropped out of high school in 10th grade, and despite coming from a fairly well-heeled family, chose a life of crime. By the time he was 40, there were numerous narcotics arrests, thefts and armed robberies, assaults, and a few escapes on his record. He was currently serving a 30-year-to-life sentence for first-degree murder. In 1980, an angry Topo, 8 days after his release from prison, pulled a .44 Magnum revolver out of his shoulder holster and shot a man in the head at close range outside the Barry's Bar on North Broadway in Lincoln Heights, just east of downtown Los Angeles. Pablo Rucobo, the 21-year-old victim partying with a friend on a Saturday night, had made the fatal mistake of asking a woman to dance. She was with Topo at the time. Peters wanted Boxer to take Sleepy along with him and whack another carnal named Dega Gallegos of Maravilla, aka Pelon. Do it for Mariposa, ordered Topo. Gallegos, according to Peters, was a coward who had to go. The story was that Gallegos accompanied two other carnales, Ernest Chuco Castro of VNE and Armando Perico Ochoa from Primera Flats, when they went to shake down a drug dealer in the Maravilla gang neighborhood of East Los Angeles. As the mafiosi walked up the stoop leading to the front door, the connection came out of the front door with a gun in hand. Gallegos ran, leaving Chuco and Perico to fend for themselves. On another occasion, Gallegos was said to have been run out of his own Maravilla neighborhood at gunpoint by a Mexican mafia dropout named Robert Marquez, aka Huito. Those two separate incidents in which his behavior by Emmett standards had been cowardly marked him for death. Topo asked, "Can you take care of this for me?" Boxer didn't hesitate. "Yeah, sure I can." Enriquez remembered that he had been briefly introduced to Gallegos at Folsom when he was a brand new brother himself. Gallegos had seemed serious and aloof, like I was supposed to be blessed by meeting this guy. Yeah, he killed Pelon, but he didn't get the chance. The next day, January 5th, 1989, Boxer went to check in with his parole officer for a regularly scheduled visit. Boxer's pupils were pinholes, and he lost a dramatic amount of weight. As soon as he walked into the office, the PO picked up the phone and said to someone else on the other end, "We're going to have tea." It was some kind of code. He turned his eyes toward Enriquez. "You're on drugs again." No, lied Boxer unconvincingly. "You're going back to jail. We'll lock you up again before you do something crazy." The PO handcuffed his new parole violator and drove him straight to the California Institution for Men in Chino, California. It had been only 5 months since Boxer's release, and now he was back in prison. The murder of David Pelon Gallegos would have to wait.